For this tutorial, we're going to be putting together the propeller blade homework assignment. I'll be using all of these things here and hopefully not any other things. Okay, so yeah, what I'll ask you to do before we go in and assemble everything is get the critical dimensions of all these parts. Okay, I'm not going to go over how to do that in this video. This is just going to be on how to put it together. But yeah, basically we're going to use this to learn about certain fits like interference fits and you know, free fits and things like that. So yeah, let's get started. First thing we want to do is position this guy on this shaft. Okay, so what will basically happen is we'll have this bearing, that's what this is called, bearing top. It'll go into that hole. This one will go into there. It'll stick out the bottom into the bearing bottom, which is here. Okay, and that'll go in there like that. It seats in a hole under there. Okay, also on the shaft there goes this gear. Okay, and it fits in there like that. And beside the gear, you'll insert the rack, okay, and then you'll be able to pull it out quickly, and it'll send the propeller blade, which is on top, up and into the skies, okay? But yeah, like I said, first thing we're gonna do is put this shaft into this piece right here, okay? So we want it to be a press fit, this particular one. We want it to be hard to push in, but you don't want it to be too hard. I wouldn't want to force it in this state. So what I'm going to try and do is I'll actually use the razor blade and I'll be scraping it. I don't know if you could quite see what I'm doing there. So yeah, let's get ourselves organized and move some of the pieces to the side. Okay, so I could use this and I could scrape with the razor blade. Be careful when you do this. I'm gonna scrape on all four sides. Okay, want to make sure I do right at least two sides that are perpendicular to each other. All right, we'll keep going with this. And again, we want this to be a press fit, but we're not gonna be, yeah, I'll ask you to measure stuff as you're putting this together, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go relatively quickly through things and not quite measure, but I would like you to measure before you know, the nominal sizes before you put things in. But yep, let's just get through how we're putting this together. So again, I would take down from all sides. Maybe this will be time-lapsed. So let's see if that fits a little bit better now. Okay. So yep, that is a light press fit, which is what we want. I mean, obviously this is not like a real press, you know, it's not like we're putting tons of pressure, but a little bit of an interference fit so that it stays kind of snug. All right, we'll use my hammer a little bit there. And then I have this little piece. So this is a piece that is like around the shop quite a lot. And as you can see, the hole is larger than, you know, the square peg can fit in this round hole because it's big enough. So I'll just use this to hit it from on the top here, try and get it centered. All right. And I want this to stick out about, I don't know, like a 1/4 of an inch, 3/16, 1/4 of an inch. All right, cool. So something like, I don't know if you can see that, something like that. Okay. So, cool. Now what I want to do is check something. All right, so I want to check that the bearing bottom fits nicely into this guy there. Okay, it looks like I'll be able to press that in. Looks like that'll be fine. I'll press it in from the top once it's in its proper position. Okay, I don't want to push it all the way in because I might affect the geometries of the bearing of the bottom bearing too much to where it won't press a second time. Okay, so I don't want to be messing around too much. I'm going to check that it's going to start, and then, you know, I'll be fine with that. Next thing I want to check, see if I can get my gear out of here, is that, yes, okay, good. So the gear doesn't need to be a press. It's going to be wedged by both of the bearings, like so. You see? So checking the gear is easily slipped on. Okay. The bottom bearing is going to wedge the gear in place. So the gear itself doesn't need to be somewhat of a press. It just can fit through nicely. Okay. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to drill out my handle hole. You can see the hole is actually not quite a hole. It's a hexagonal thing. So we're just gonna use a drill bit. The particular drill bit I have is a 25/64, which is like a 3/8-0. Okay, so let's try that. And I'm gonna be careful. All right, good. And I printed this without support material. You can use support material. I don't see why I would really need to. But anyways, what we're gonna check now is that yep, okay, great. That is sliding quite nicely, okay? So yeah, the bearing top feels like it slides quite nicely, so that's a good check. Next, what I wanna do is check that the gear slides. It's a little bit sticky, so I'll use the sandpaper on that. And yeah, you might need to do this more or less depending on how your gears came out. Okay, so there we go. That feels quite nice now, and you might need to do that more or less depending. Okay, so we've checked the gear. Gear is going to come out one more time. Okay, next what we want to check is the bearing bottom. Okay, so if you take a look here, the bearing, this always gets stuck. Might need a time lapse me getting this unstuck. There we go, it's out. So anyways, all the way down in the hole there's like another hexagonal hole like beneath where the slot is. So you see the slot, and then you could probably just barely see that other hexagonal hole in there. So that is where this guy is gonna go in. And obviously, if you did like I just did, it becomes kind of hard to keep it in place. So we're gonna try and place it in there like so. Okay, so you see how, hold on, let's get back to that view again. See how it's in there like that? Okay, now before I put the gear in, I wanna just place this in there, the shaft down in there, and I could see that I'm not pressing it all the way in, but I could see that the bottom bearing is going to rotate as well. Okay, so that's really important also for how this is gonna function. Okay, now we'll check our gear once more. We might need to modify it a little bit more to make sure that it looks like we're gonna need to modify it ever so slightly. You need to also check it with the bearing in there because it does add a little bit of height in there. So let's do that really quick. I'm gonna put my handle upright like that so the bearing bottom stays in there. And we'll just sand this down a little bit more. Might need a time lapse, hopefully not. Okay, and so now we will place that guy in there. Feels like it rotates a lot freer now. Okay, and now everything is in place. So the bearing bottom is underneath the gear now. And what I can do is I could take the longer end of the bearing and shaft subassembly that we just made. Okay, I'm gonna shove that into there. Okay, gear is spinning freely, but I need to push this all the way down from the top. Okay, and I'm gonna push it down such that the bearing is pretty much flush with the top there. Okay, so yeah, just a couple of taps. Okay, that looks pretty good. That's as far down as it goes. And you can see my bearing is just a little bit higher than the top surface there. So I'm going to just use this and hit it down a little bit more without hitting the square shaft down. There we go. Cool. And now you can see it's all together and it rotates quite freely. Okay, so all together, rotates quite freely. Now what we gotta do is we gotta check to see if our handle fits in, okay? So, yeah, that's not feeling super smooth. Okay, so what I'll do, depending on how, yeah, you might need to do this more or less depending on, you know, a lot of variables with this. Like honestly, it's kind of a tight tolerance sometimes to where your like layer offset height on the first layer might even be like enough, like within a millimeter or so to be like, you know, not conducive to, you know, a good sliding fit in here. But what I'm also gonna do is shave down the back side a little bit because that can also help it slide a little bit better. And yeah, there can be a little bit of backlash in the gears. It doesn't have to be, you know, they don't have to be perfectly meshed. All right, so let's take a look. All right, we're still sticking a little bit. A lot of times you can wear it in. All right, but I'm gonna shave down just a little bit more. All right, a little bit more. You could also use the sandpaper for this. This is kind of a little bit quicker. It's not good for the blade, but it's really effective. I learned how to, I was actually reading an outdoor survival book when I saw this technique. But anyways, kind of works, dulls the blade, but it works well. There we go. Slides quite nicely. Okay, so we should be ready to rip. I'll angle the camera up so we can take a look at this. All right, so here we go. We have the cord in place, the pull cord in place, and then on top, let's make sure we're not over a light. Woohoo! Okay, so yeah, that's the whole tutorial.